Hello and welcome to the Real News Radio, your weekly broadcast where we discuss current events, the continuing charade being conducted by our bankrupt government as it continues to pour trillions of our money into the black hole of no return. This week was no different as the G20 met in London to discuss how to continue to manipulate mankind and continue the looting of our wealth transfer from Main Street to Wall Street. Obama's No Banker Left Behind European tour. They were met with somewhat large protest as some people are waking up to the financial raping being carried out in broad daylight by corrupt bankers and criminal elements in our own government. They announced yet another trillion-dollar scheme to undo the very problems these criminals and traitors themselves created and condoned. This is not a crisis caused just by the housing market. This is the elite globalist bankers at the highest levels purposely destroying our economy, erasing life savings to move the dumbfounded, unsuspecting American population into a new financial order, consolidate power into fewer and fewer hands, and make a giant step toward globalism. As we document this here weekly with the news and with our guest, today our guest is going to be Bob Chapman, the international forecaster. He will be joining us after the first break as we will discuss the news headlines from around the nation. Record unemployment, new record Americans on food stamps. The news just continues to get worse. People, are you beginning to see that something is drastically wrong here? Our government is not by the people, for the people, and of the people. No, it is by the bankers, for the bankers, and of the bankers. Through the complete incompetence that has brought and paid for our government, they have dismantled our manufacturing industry, devalued our currency, refused to in any real fashion control our borders, ran up unprecedented massive trillions in debt, and to who and where is the money is still unknown to us, the mere peasants, and now by design in rapid fashion robbed the middle class and destroyed our economy. It is unbelievable to me the people sit back and seem to accept this mortgaging of even their children's and grandchildren's future. If this doesn't inspire people to consider that something is tremendously wrong here with our government and that we need to make a drastic change in this country and return to an honest form of government, sound money, get rid of this massive bureaucracy and return to some common sense, abolish the Federal Reserve, and have a government that represents we, the people. I don't know what it will take to wake up the people. And we are planning a Tea Party protest on April 15th. I go Monday to see about the permits. Yes, my rights have obviously been reduced to a privilege, but I will update everyone next week. But tentatively, we are planning 12 noon, April 15th, at the Civic Center downtown Statesville to protest our high taxes, the socialistic, unconstitutional bailouts, and our out-of-control government. So please email us at onair@therealnewsradio.com if you would like to join us or if you have any questions. And we're going to go ahead and start with some news. And like I say, our guest, Bob Chapman, will be joining us at around 9:15. This was in the news reported on WorldNet Daily. Citizen grand jury indicts Obama. Now, you won't see this in the mainstream press. President Obama has been named in dozens of civil lawsuits alleging he is not eligible to be president, with one man even filing a criminal complaint alleging the commander-in-chief is a fraud, and now a citizen grand jury in Georgia has indicted the sitting president. The indictment delivered to state and federal prosecutors yesterday is one of the developments in the dispute over Obama to be president under the U.S. Constitution's requirements that the president be a natural-born citizen. Orly Tates, a California attorney working on several of the civil actions, also announced she has filed another warranto case in the District of Columbia where she told WorldNet Daily the statutes acknowledge that procedure. The claim essentially calls on Obama to explain by what authority he has assumed the power of the presidency. Georgia resident Carl Swenson, whose work is detailed on his RiseUpForAmerica.org website, told WorldNet Daily he got tired of the issue over Obama's eligibility as well as his performance in office. I took it upon myself to find as many patriots as I could across the state for the purpose of seating 25 for a grand jury. Over the weekend, the jurors took sworn testimony from several sources and then generated an indictment that later was forwarded to the U.S. Attorney, the State Attorney General, and others in law enforcement across the state. Swenson said that the indictments were delivered to the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia, state officials, and leaders of the Georgia Senate and House. He told WorldNet Daily that since the action in Georgia, he has been contacted by groups in at least 20 other states who want to pursue similar action. So this is a story, Brian, that we want to update. We have documented here several of the questions about the legitimacy of the Obama presidency. What's your thoughts on it?
Who was it that was arrested in Kenya trying to research this story?
Oh yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, it's been about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
We've played some of the clips that was sent to us by listeners that questioned his citizenship. You know, the governor of Hawaii sealed his birth records. I mean, the story goes on and on and on. Phil Berg took it all the way up to the Supreme Court. But this is a story that gets very little press in the mainstream press that we want to document here.
So really your background's irrelevant as long as the global elite want you to become president.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're seeing here.
Well, look at what happened to Dan Rather when he tried to break, the story about George Bush not showing up to his National Guard drills in Texas.
That's exactly right. So this is a story that we will keep updating, but I thought everyone would find it interesting. And then after our guest, we will continue with more news and economic news.
First black president grovels to virulently racist royal family. Prince Philip asks Obama, "Can you tell foreign leaders apart?" This is Steve Watson, Infowars.net, Thursday, April 2nd, 2009. The sight of any U.S. president literally bowing to British royalty is enough for many Americans to become outraged. However, the fact that the latest to do so is America's first black president made yesterday's exchange between Obama and the Queen of England even more troublesome. Prior to meeting the Queen and her notoriously racist husband, Prince Philip, Obama announced that, quote, he loves her, and that, quote, in the imagination of the American people, the Queen stands for decency and civility. How repugnantly ironic that the first black president of the so-called free world should refer to the most entrenched, prejudiced, and elitist institution in Europe as an icon of civility. How disgustingly deplorable that the president should call decent a bloodline that has for centuries declared itself as God's appointed rulers over half the planet, killing, torturing, and maiming anyone who crossed it in order to hold on to that mantle. Reports also circulated regarding Obama practicing bowing and brushing up on courtly etiquette ahead of the meeting. Traditional royal protocol dictates that men do a neck bow, women do a slight curtsy, though a handshake is considered acceptable as long as the Queen offers her hand first, Politico reported. When the president met the Queen in a room used to stage audiences with foreign dignitaries, Obama bowed his head and quietly said to her, "Thank you so much for having us," before turning to the Duke, bowing once more and adding, "It's a wonderful honor." Michelle Obama curtsied to the Queen. However, later she was treasonously caught inappropriately putting her hands on the glorious monarch. The London Telegraph even issued a report on how the move was, quote, a departure from what is considered appropriate protocol when meeting the Queen. And like Steve's saying here, which I agree 100% here, this bloodline has ravaged the entire planet, murdering and imprisoning literally millions of people to maintain its power structure over the years. And here Obama's calling them as an icon of, quote, civility. Just how ridiculously disgusting this really is, to have our leader just bowing to these disgusting elitists in Europe.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. A lot of people may be unaware of how racist the royal family of England has been. I find it unbelievable that the people of England still want to carry on that charade of that royal family to start with, but we've got about 45 seconds until we go to break, Brian. If you would, tell us just a little bit maybe about Alan Watt that's going to be our guest next week.
Yes, Alan Watt will be with us next week during the second hour. He's a researcher, author, musician, and frequent guest on the Alex Jones